My wife said, "Girls only trip. Trust me for once." I replied, "I trust." Then I checked our credit card statement. The thing about trust is that it's like a checking account. You can only withdraw what's been deposited. Natalie had been making withdrawals for months, maybe years, and I'd been too stupid to check the balance. "Christopher, you worry too much," she said, standing in our bedroom doorway with that perfect smile that used to make my knees weak. Now it just made my stomach turn. "It's just me and Melissa, a little spa time, some wine, girl talk. You know how it is." I didn't know how it is. I'm a 40-year-old guy who installs security systems for a living. My idea of a weekend getaway involves fishing and beer, not cucumber facials and whatever the hell women do when they're bonding. "Sure, babe. Have fun." I watched her pack her designer luggage, the stuff she bought with money from our joint account without asking. Everything folded just so, like she was preparing for a photo shoot instead of a casual weekend with her best friend. Natalie Mercer was beautiful in that way that made other men stare and other women hate her. Blonde hair that cost more to maintain than my truck payment. Perfect teeth, perfect figure. She'd been the homecoming queen at Jefferson High, and somehow, by some miracle I still couldn't explain, she'd married me. Christopher Mercer, the guy who fixed broken locks and installed alarm systems. The guy whose hands were always dirty and whose truck needed a wash. The guy who thought he'd won the lottery when she said yes. Turns out the lottery was rigged. "I'll miss you," she said, kissing my cheek with lips that tasted like expensive lipstick and lies. "Try not to work too much while I'm gone." "I'll try." I meant it. I had 3 installations scheduled for the weekend, but maybe I'd take it easy. Maybe I'd order pizza and watch the game like a normal guy whose wife wasn't about to. "Stop. Trust, remember?" She asked for trust. The house felt different after she left. Bigger. Emptier. Like someone had sucked all the air out of it. I wandered around for a while, picking up her coffee cup, straightening the magazines she'd left scattered on the coffee table. By Sunday afternoon, I was going crazy. That's when I made the mistake, or maybe the smartest decision of my life. I logged into our credit card account online, just to check, just to make sure everything was okay. The charges started showing up Saturday morning. First, premium couples massage at Serenity Springs Resort. $240. My finger hovered over the mouse. Couples massage. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the spa had weird package deals. Maybe. Second, romantic dinner for 2 at Le Bernardin, $315. My heart started hammering against my ribs. Romantic dinner for 2, not girls' dinner, not group meal, dinner for 2. Third, men's cologne from the resort gift shop, $85. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Men's cologne. Natalie didn't have a brother. Her father had been gone for 5 years. The only men in her life were me and Bradley Kane. The name hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Bradley Kane, her high school boyfriend. Bradley Kane, the real estate hotshot who'd been sniffing around our social circle for the past year. Bradley Kane, who always had something clever to say when we ran into him at parties, always managed to bring up the old days when he and Natalie were king and queen of Jefferson High. I grabbed my phone and called Harold Finch, my attorney. Harold had been handling legal stuff for my security business for 3 years. He was smart, practical, and had a sense of humor drier than week-old toast. "Chris," Harold's voice was calm, professional. "What can I do for you on this fine Sunday afternoon?" "I need to ask you something, hypothetically." In my experience, nothing good ever starts with hypothetically. But go ahead. I told him about the credit card charges, about the couple's massage and the romantic dinner and the cologne that my wife had apparently bought for someone who wasn't me. Harold was quiet for a long moment. Then, "How long have you been married?" 12 years. "Kids?" "Our son Ben. He's 10. "Joint accounts?" "Everything. House, cars, business, savings." Another pause. Chris, I'm going to give you some advice, and I want you to listen carefully. Change your locks. Today, before she gets home. Harold, I can't just... Yes, you can. It's your house too. You have every right to secure your property, especially when you have reason to believe your spouse might be planning to take advantage of your trust. Trust. There was that word again. What about Ben? Where is he? With my sister Tessa for the weekend. Good. That gives you time to think. Change the locks, Chris. Protect yourself. We'll sort out the rest later. I hung up and sat in my kitchen, staring at the credit card statement I'd printed out. The charges were right there in black and white. No room for interpretation. No innocent explanation. My wife was having an affair. The funny thing about being a security expert is that you know exactly how vulnerable most people are. They leave spare keys under flower pots. They use their birthdays as alarm codes. They trust that locks will keep out the people who want to hurt them, never realizing that sometimes the danger comes from inside. I'd installed security systems in half the houses in this town. I knew which ones could be bypassed in 30 seconds, and which ones would take a professional crew with serious equipment. I knew where people hid their valuables and how they protected their secrets. But I'd never thought to protect myself from my own wife. I called Earl Gentry, the best locksmith in the county. Earl was 62 years old, built like a bulldog, and had been changing locks since before I was born. He'd taught me half of what I knew about security hardware. Earl, it's Chris Mercer. I need you to come out to my house today. What's the problem? I need all the locks changed. Front door, back door, garage, everything. Earl was quiet for a moment. He'd been in this business long enough to recognize the tone in my voice. Domestic situation? Yeah. I'll be there in an hour. High security cylinders? The best you've got. After I hung up, I walked through my house, our house, and started seeing it differently. The bedroom where she'd packed her bags this morning. The bathroom where she'd spent an hour getting ready for her girls' trip. The kitchen where she'd kissed my cheek and told me she'd miss me. All of it felt contaminated now, poisoned by the knowledge that she'd been planning this betrayal while smiling at me, while letting me make her coffee, while pretending to be the woman I'd married. Earl showed up exactly 1 hour later, driving his beat-up van with Gentry Locksmith, painted on the side in faded letters. He took one look at my face and nodded. Let's get started. We worked in silence, Earl removing the old cylinders and installing new ones. High-security locks that would take a professional 10 minutes to bypass instead of 30 seconds. Not that it mattered. The real security breach had happened a long time ago, when I'd given my trust to someone who didn't deserve it. You want me to ask what happened? Earl said as he finished the front door. Not particularly. Good. None of my business anyway. He handed me a set of keys. These are the only copies. You want my advice? Sure. Whatever she did, don't let her make you feel like the bad guy for protecting yourself. Trust is earned, not owed. After Earl left, I sat on my front porch and waited. Natalie's flight was supposed to land at 8:30. It would take her 40 minutes to drive home from the airport. That gave me just enough time to do one more thing. I went upstairs and packed her clothes. Not angrily, not frantically. Methodically. Like I was preparing for an installation job. Everything folded, everything organized. Her dresses and blouses and the lingerie I'd bought her for Christmas, the perfume she wore to parties, and the jewelry she kept in the little wooden box on her dresser. I packed it all into the same designer luggage she'd taken on her girls' trip. Then I carried the bags downstairs and set them on the front porch, arranged neatly beside the door that she would no longer be able to open. At 9:15, I saw headlights coming up the driveway. Natalie's BMW pulled into the driveway at exactly 9:17. I was sitting on the porch steps, still wearing the same jeans and work shirt I'd put on that morning, back when I was just a guy whose wife was coming home from a weekend trip. She sat in the car for a moment after turning off the engine, probably checking her phone, maybe texting Bradley to let him know she'd made it home safely. The thought made my stomach twist, but I stayed put. Finally, she got out. Even in the porch light, she looked perfect. Hair still styled, makeup still flawless, like she'd spent the weekend at an actual spa instead of rolling around with her high school boyfriend. "Hey, honey," she called out, pulling her suitcase from the trunk. "Miss me?" "Like a toothache," I said. She laughed, thinking I was being cute. "You're terrible. Help me with this bag?" "I think you can manage." Something in my tone made her look up. She noticed the suitcases on the porch for the first time, and her perfect smile faltered. "Chris, what's going on? How was your girls' trip?" "It was fine, relaxing. You know how Melissa is, she talked my ear off the whole time." She was walking toward the porch now, her heels clicking on the concrete. "Why are my bags out here?" "Couples massage," I said. She stopped walking. "What?" "Couples massage at Serenity Springs Resort. $240, charged to our credit card yesterday morning." The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. "Chris, I can explain. Romantic dinner for two at Le Bernardin. $315. You're checking up on me now? Going through our credit card statements like some kind of men's cologne from the resort gift shop. $85. She stood there in the driveway, her suitcase handle still in her hand, looking like someone who just realized the ground was about to give way beneath her feet. "Who was it for, Natalie?" "Chris, please, let me come inside and we can talk about this like adults." I held up the new keys, letting them catch the porch light. "These locks don't know you anymore." "You changed the locks?" Her voice went up an octave. "You can't do that. This is my house, too." Was, past tense. She dropped her suitcase and marched toward the porch, her face shifting from confusion to anger. "This is insane. You're acting like a crazy person." "Am I? Let's see." I pulled out my phone and opened the credit card app. Saturday, 10:30 a.m., couples massage. Melissa get a sudden craving for male companionship. It was a mistake. The spa made an error. Saturday, 7:15 p.m., romantic dinner for two. Guess Melissa really wanted to split an entree. "Chris, stop this!" Saturday, 9:45 p.m., men's cologne. Let me guess. Melissa's going through a phase? Natalie climbed the porch steps, her heels sharp against the wood. "Fine. Yes, I was with someone. But it's not what you think." "Really? What is it then?" "It's complicated. Try me. I'm a simple guy, but I can usually follow along." She sat down on the top step, suddenly looking exhausted. The perfect facade was cracking, and underneath was something I'd never seen before. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance at getting caught. "Bradley was there," she said finally. "Bradley Kane." "Yes." "Your ex-boyfriend, Bradley Kane." "Yes." "The same Bradley Kane who's been circling our marriage like a vulture for the past year." "It's not like that." "Then what's it like, Natalie? Explain it to me." She looked up at me with those blue eyes that used to make me forget my own name. "We ran into each other at the resort. Total coincidence. Melissa and I were having dinner, and he was there on business. Business that required cologne. He was staying at the same resort. We started talking, and one thing led to another." "What kind of things?" "Just talking. About old times. About how things used to be." "And the couple's massage?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Melissa went back to the room. She had a headache. Bradley and I were just catching up." "Catching up? Is that what we're calling it?" "Nothing happened, Chris. I swear to you, nothing happened." I looked at her sitting there on my porch steps, surrounded by her packed luggage, still trying to sell me a story that wouldn't fool a 10-year-old. "You know what the funny thing is?" I said. "This morning, when you left, I actually felt guilty for not trusting you completely. I thought maybe I was being paranoid, maybe I was letting my insecurities get the better of me. Chris, you asked me to trust you, so I did. I trusted you to go on your girls' trip. I trusted you to come home and tell me the truth about your weekend. I trusted you to respect our marriage and our family. I do respect our marriage. No, you don't. You respect the idea of our marriage, the security, the house, the life we built. But you don't respect me. She stood up, her hands clenched into fists. That's not true. Prove it. What? Prove it. Show me your phone. My phone? Right now, show me your text messages with Bradley. She clutched her purse against her chest like it contained state secrets. I'm not going to. That's what I thought. This is ridiculous. You're being controlling and paranoid and right. We stared at each other across the porch. 12 years of marriage, 12 years of shared jokes and quiet mornings and fights about money and making up afterward. 12 years of building something together, and she'd thrown it away for a weekend with her high school boyfriend. I want to come inside, she said finally. I want a lot of things. Doesn't mean I'm going to get them. This is my house, and our marriage, and our credit card that you used to finance your little reunion. Where am I supposed to go? I gestured toward her phone. Call Bradley. I'm sure he's got room. Her face went white. Chris, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, we can what? Pretend this never happened? Pretend I didn't see the charges? Pretend you didn't lie to my face this morning when you kissed me goodbye? It was one weekend. How many other weekends, Natalie? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I stood up and walked to the front door, my new key ready. Your bags are packed. Your ride is in the driveway. I suggest you figure out where you're spending the night. What about Ben? What about him? He's my son, too. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to play house with Bradley Kane. I opened the front door and stepped inside. She called my name, but I didn't turn around. I locked the door behind me and listened to her footsteps on the porch, the sound of her dragging her suitcases down the steps, the slam of her car door. The house was quiet again, but this time it felt like mine. Monday morning came with the kind of clarity that only follows a sleepless night. I'd spent most of Sunday evening sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee and staring at the credit card statement. By dawn, I'd made 3 decisions. First, I was filing for divorce. Second, I was getting full custody of Ben. And third, I was going to make sure everyone in our social circle knew exactly what kind of person Natalie Mercer really was. Harold Finch arrived at my office at 8 a.m. sharp, carrying a briefcase and wearing the kind of expression that meant business. "How are you holding up?" he asked, settling into the chair across from my desk. "I've been better. I've also been worse." "Good attitude. We're going to need it." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. "I've drafted the initial filing, irreconcilable differences, with a request for temporary custody and financial support." "What about the credit card charges?" "We'll use them as evidence of financial irresponsibility and marital misconduct. It won't get us everything, but it's a start." I signed the papers while Harold explained the process. 30 days for her to respond, mediation if we were lucky, court if we weren't. The whole thing would take months, maybe longer if Natalie decided to fight. "One more thing," Harold said as he packed up his briefcase. "You might want to consider changing your business banking as well, just in case she tries to access those accounts. She doesn't have access to the business accounts. You'd be surprised what people try when they're desperate." After Harold left, I called my sister Tessa. She was keeping Ben for another day while I sorted things out, and I needed to figure out how to explain to a 10-year-old that his parents were getting divorced. "How did she take it?" Tessa asked. "About as well as you'd expect. Lots of denial, lots of blame shifting." "And you're sure about this? No chance of working things out?" "Tess, she spent our anniversary weekend with another man, used our credit card to pay for it, then came home and lied to my face about the whole thing." "Okay, fair point. What do you need me to do?" "Keep Ben for a couple more days while I get the house sorted out, and maybe put the word out about what happened. Put the word out? You know how this town works. Gossip travels faster than the internet. I want people to know the truth before Natalie starts spinning her version of events. Tessa was quiet for a moment. Chris, are you sure that's the route you want to go? Once this gets out, there's no taking it back. She made that choice when she decided to cheat. I'm just making sure the consequences fit the crime. All right, I'll make some calls. The beauty of living in a mid-sized town is that everyone knows everyone else's business. The downside is that everyone knows everyone else's business, but sometimes that works in your favor. By Tuesday afternoon, my phone was ringing constantly, clients calling to express their support, friends offering to help with anything I needed, and, most importantly, people sharing what they knew about Natalie and Bradley's friendship. Turns out, their weekend getaway wasn't as spontaneous as Natalie had claimed. I saw them having lunch at Morrison's Cafe 2 weeks ago, said Janet Miller, whose house I'd wired for security the previous month. They looked pretty cozy for just friends. My wife saw them at the movies last Friday night, added Tom Rodriguez from Rodriguez Construction. Said they were holding hands in the parking lot. The pieces were falling into place. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment reunion or a case of old friends catching up. This was a full-blown affair that had been going on for weeks, maybe months. Wednesday brought the best news yet. My business phone rang around noon, and the voice on the other end was familiar. Chris, this is Melissa Patterson. Melissa, Natalie's supposed partner in crime for the girls' weekend. Hello, Melissa. I heard about what happened, about you and Natalie. Did you? Chris, I need you to know that I wasn't part of it. I wasn't even there this weekend. My hand tightened on the phone. What do you mean? Natalie asked me to cover for her if anyone called. She said she needed some time alone to think about things. I thought she was going to a spa by herself, maybe doing some soul searching. You thought she was alone? I swear to you, I had no idea about Bradley. When I heard what really happened, I felt sick. I've been married for 15 years, Chris. I would never help someone cheat on their spouse. Why are you telling me this? Because it's the right thing to do, and because I think you should know that this has been going on longer than just this weekend. My heart started hammering again. How long? I don't know exactly. But Natalie's been acting strange for months, secretive, always checking her phone, always making excuses to go out. I thought maybe she was planning a surprise party or something. A surprise, all right. Chris, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't say something sooner. After Melissa hung up, I sat in my office and tried to process what I'd just learned. The weekend at Serenity Springs wasn't the beginning of the affair. It was just the first time they'd been careless enough to leave evidence. How long had this been going on? How many times had Natalie come home and kissed me hello while still carrying the scent of another man? How many times had I made her coffee in the morning after she'd spent the previous evening texting Bradley? The anger was building now, hot and sharp and focused. Not the helpless rage of Sunday night, but something colder, more calculating. I picked up my phone and called Earl Gentry. Earl, it's Chris. I need another favor. What kind of favor? The kind that involves making someone's life very, very complicated. Earl chuckled. I'm listening. Bradley Kane lives in that big house on Maple Street, the one with the electronic locks and the fancy security system. I know the place. What about it? I want to know everything about his security setup. Cameras, alarms, access codes, everything. Chris, I'm not going to break in, Earl. I just want to understand what I'm dealing with. Professional curiosity. Uh-huh. Professional curiosity. Can you help me or not? Earl was quiet for a moment. I installed those locks 3 years ago. Still have the original specs on file. But Chris, whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking that Bradley Kane is about to learn that actions have consequences. All right. But if anyone asks, this conversation never happened. What conversation? Thursday morning brought a call from Ben. He was staying with Tessa but wanted to come home, Wanted to know when things would go back to normal. Dad, when is Mom coming home? She's not, buddy, not for a while. Did you guys have a fight? Something like that. Was it my fault? The question hit me like a punch to the chest. No, Ben, this has nothing to do with you. This is between your mom and me, and it's definitely not your fault. Then why can't you just say you're sorry and fix it? Because sometimes, when people break trust, it can't be fixed with an apology. What's trust? I thought about that for a moment. Trust is when you believe someone will do what they say they're going to do, when you don't have to worry about whether they're telling you the truth. And Mom broke trust? Yeah, buddy, she did. So now what happens? Now we figure out how to move forward, you and me. What about Mom? Your mom will always be your mom. That won't change. But she won't be living here anymore. Ben was quiet for a long moment. Okay, he said finally. Can I come home this weekend? Absolutely. After I hung up, I sat in my truck outside Bradley Kane's house and studied the security setup Earl had described. Cameras at each entrance, motion sensors in the yard, electronic locks that could be controlled remotely. The kind of system that cost more than most people made in 6 months. The kind of system that someone like me could disable in about 30 seconds. I wasn't going to break in. I wasn't going to steal anything or vandalize his property. But I was going to make sure that Bradley Kane understood exactly what kind of enemy he'd made when he decided to wreck my marriage. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. We need to talk. Natalie. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back, No, we don't. Please, this is important. Everything was important to you until you got caught. It's about Ben. That got my attention. What about Ben? Meet me at Riverside Park in an hour, please. I almost said no. Almost deleted the message and drove home. But the mention of Ben changed everything. Whatever else happened between Natalie and me, our son's welfare came first. 1 hour, I typed back, and this better be good. Riverside Park was where Natalie and I had our first date, back when we were both young and stupid and thought love could conquer anything. Now it felt like a graveyard for good intentions. She was already there when I arrived, sitting on the same bench where I'd kissed her for the first time 20 years ago. She looked smaller somehow, diminished, like someone had turned down her brightness setting. Thank you for coming, she said as I approached. You said this was about Ben. It is, partly. She gestured to the space beside her on the bench. Will you sit? I'll stand. Chris, please, we need to talk like civilized people. Civilized people don't cheat on their spouses. She flinched but didn't argue. I know you're angry. Angry doesn't begin to cover it. I know, and I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I need you to understand something. I understand plenty. Bradley and I, it's not what you think. Really? What is it then? She took a deep breath. It's complicated. You keep saying that. It's not complicated, Natalie. You cheated. End of story. I'm leaving him. That stopped me cold. What? Bradley, I'm ending things with him. It was a mistake, and I'm ending it. Congratulations. You want a medal? I want my family back. I stared at her sitting there on the bench, looking like a woman who just realized she'd bet everything on the wrong horse. Your family? You and Ben, this house, our life together. Our life together ended when you decided to go on vacation with your boyfriend. It was one weekend. How long, Natalie? What? How long has this been going on? And don't lie to me. I already know it wasn't just one weekend. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. 3 months. 3 months. Maybe 4. Maybe 4. Chris, I know how this sounds. It sounds like you've been lying to me for 4 months. It sounds like every time you kissed me goodbye, every time you told me you loved me, every time you made plans for our future, you were thinking about him. That's not true. Isn't it? She stood up and faced me, her eyes bright with tears that might have been real. I made a mistake. A terrible, awful mistake. But it's over now, and I want to come home. Why? Because I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. You love the security and the house and the life we built, but you don't love me. How can you say that? Because if you loved me, you wouldn't have spent 4 months lying to my face. People make mistakes, Chris. People screw up. That doesn't mean we throw away 12 years of marriage. You threw it away. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She sat back down on the bench, her perfect composure finally cracking. What about Ben? What about him? He needs both his parents. He needs parents he can trust, parents who keep their promises and tell the truth. I can change. Can you? Because from where I'm standing, you're still lying. I'm not lying. You said it was 1 weekend, then you said 3 months, then maybe 4. You said nothing happened, then you admitted you were with Bradley. You said it was complicated, then you said it was a mistake. Which is it, Natalie? She didn't answer. You want to know what I think? I think you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. I think you would have kept this going indefinitely if I hadn't checked the credit card statement. That's not true. Prove it. How? Show me your phone. Chris, right now, show me your text messages with Bradley. She clutched her purse like it contained nuclear codes. I deleted them. When? Sunday night, after our fight. How convenient. I deleted them because I wanted to start fresh. I wanted to put this behind us. Or you deleted them because they contained evidence of just how long this has been going on. We stood there in the park, surrounded by the ghosts of better times, and I realized that the woman sitting on that bench wasn't the person I'd married. Maybe she never had been. Maybe I'd been in love with an illusion, a carefully constructed facade that had finally cracked under the weight of its own deception. I'm filing for divorce, I said. Chris, no, please. And I'm asking for full custody of Ben. You can't do that. Watch me. I'm his mother. You're also an adulterer who used family money to finance her affair. How do you think that's going to play in family court? Her face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. This is about revenge, isn't it? You want to punish me. This is about consequences. You made choices, and choices have consequences. What about Ben's choice? What about what he wants? Ben wants parents who love him enough to put his needs first. You proved that's not you when you decided to risk our family for a weekend with Bradley Kane. She stood up and walked to the edge of the pond, her back to me. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen, and now we have to deal with it. I love you, Chris. I know you don't believe me, but I do. You love the idea of me, the security, the stability, the life I provided, but you don't love me enough to be faithful to me. I made one mistake. 4 months isn't one mistake. 4 months is a choice you made every single day. She turned around, and for a moment, I saw something in her eyes that might have been genuine regret. What if I could prove to you that it's over? What if I could show you that I'm committed to making this work? How? I don't know. Whatever it takes. It's too late, Natalie. It's never too late. It is for us. I started walking back toward my truck, but her voice stopped me. Chris, wait. I turned around. There's something else you need to know. What? Bradley, he's not going to just disappear quietly. What do you mean? He's angry. About me ending things. About you changing the locks and embarrassing him. Embarrassing him? People are talking, Chris. About the affair, about what happened. His reputation is taking a hit. Good. He blames you. For what? Catching you? For turning people against him. For making him look like the bad guy. He is the bad guy. I know that. But he doesn't see it that way. What are you saying, Natalie? I'm saying be careful. Bradley's not used to losing and he doesn't handle it well. I looked at her standing there by the pond, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt something like pity. She'd thrown away everything good in her life for a man who was already making threats. "Thanks for the warning," I said. "Chris?" "What?" "I really am sorry." "I know you are. You're just not sorry for the right reasons." I left her there in the park and drove home to my empty house with its new locks and its fresh start. Whatever Bradley Kane was planning, I'd be ready for him. After all, I was in the security business. Bradley Kane's first move came on Friday afternoon. I was at the office, reviewing installation schedules, when my business phone rang. "Mercer Security, this is Chris." "Mr. Mercer, this is Patricia Williams from First National Bank. I'm calling about your business loan." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" "We've received some concerning information about your personal situation, and we need to discuss how it might affect your ability to meet your obligations." "What kind of concerning information?" "Perhaps we should meet in person. Are you available this afternoon?" I was at the bank 30 minutes later, sitting across from Patricia Williams and trying to keep my expression neutral, while she explained that someone had contacted them with questions about my financial stability and emotional state. "Who contacted you?" "I can't reveal that information, Mr. Mercer, but the caller expressed concern that your recent domestic difficulties might impact your business operations." "My domestic difficulties have nothing to do with my business." "Perhaps not, but we need to be sure. I'm going to need updated financial statements and a formal review of your account status." It took 2 hours to satisfy the bank's concerns, 2 hours of paperwork and explanations and reassurances that my business was solid regardless of what was happening in my personal life. By the time I left, I was furious. Bradley Kane was playing hardball. I called Harold Finch from the parking lot. "Someone's been making calls," I told him, "trying to sabotage my business." "Any proof it was Kane?" "Who else would it be?" "Proof, Chris. We need proof." "Then let's get some." That evening, I drove to Bradley's house and parked across the street. His BMW was in the driveway and lights were on throughout the house. I sat there for an hour, watching and waiting. At 9:30, Natalie's car pulled into his driveway. So much for ending things with him. I took photos with my phone as she walked to his front door, as he opened it and pulled her inside. More evidence for the divorce proceedings, more proof that everything she'd told me in the park was another lie. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number again. "Stop watching my house, or I'll call the police." I looked up at Bradley's house. He was standing in an upstairs window, holding his phone. I typed back, "Public street, public parking. Harassment is a crime. So is adultery. Leave now or I'll make your life very difficult. You already tried that. Didn't work." I started my truck and drove home, but not before taking one more photo of Natalie's car in his driveway. Saturday morning brought more problems. 3 of my scheduled installations had been canceled overnight, all with similar explanations, concerns about my personal reliability and professional stability. Someone was systematically trying to destroy my business. I called Earl Gentry. "Earl, remember that favor I asked you about? The one involving Kane's security system? That's the one. I need those specs now. Chris, whatever you're planning..." "He's trying to ruin my business, Earl. Calling my clients, calling my bank, spreading rumors about my reliability." "You sure it's him?" "Who else would it be?" Earl was quiet for a moment. "All right, but Chris?" "Yeah?" "Don't do anything stupid." Define stupid. "Anything that gets you arrested." "I'm not going to get arrested." Famous last words. That afternoon, I studied Bradley's security setup like I was planning a military operation. Cameras at the front and back doors, motion sensors in the yard, electronic locks controlled by a central system. The kind of setup that would alert him to any intrusion within seconds. But here's the thing about security systems. They're designed to keep out amateurs. Someone who knows what they're doing can bypass almost any system with the right tools and enough patience. I wasn't planning to break in. I was planning something much more elegant. Sunday evening, I parked 3 blocks away and walked to Bradley's neighborhood. It was a warm night, and several people were out walking dogs or working in their yards. Perfect cover. I approached Bradley's house from the back, staying in the shadows between the motion sensors. Earl's specs had been perfect. I knew exactly where each camera was positioned and how to avoid them. The electronic lock on his back gate took me 45 seconds to bypass. The motion sensors in his backyard took another 2 minutes to disable. By the time I reached his house, his security system thought everything was normal. I wasn't going inside. I didn't need to. Instead, I attached a small device to his main electrical panel, hidden behind the meter where no one would think to look. The device was something I'd developed for testing client systems. It could cause intermittent power fluctuations that would make electronic equipment behave erratically. Nothing dangerous, nothing permanent. Just enough to make his life interesting. I was back in my truck within 20 minutes, and Bradley Kane had no idea I'd ever been there. Monday morning, my phone started ringing early. "Chris, it's Earl. You hear about Kane's house?" "What about it?" "Power problems all night. Lights flickering, alarm system going haywire, electronic locks malfunctioning. Had to call an emergency electrician at 3 a.m. "Huh, that's too bad." "Yeah, real shame. Electrician couldn't find anything wrong, though. Said it might be a problem with the main grid." These things happen. Sure do. Especially to people who make enemies in the security business. Tuesday brought more good news. Word was spreading about Bradley's electrical problems, and people were starting to ask questions about the reliability of his expensive security system. If a real estate mogul couldn't keep his own house secure, how could clients trust him to find them safe properties? His business was starting to suffer, just like mine had. But Bradley wasn't finished. Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from Ben's school. "Mr. Mercer, this is Principal Davidson. We need to discuss your son's custody arrangements." "What about them?" "We've received conflicting information about who's authorized to pick up Ben from school." "What kind of conflicting information?" "Perhaps you could come in this afternoon? We need to clarify the situation." I was at the school within the hour, sitting in Principal Davidson's office while she explained that someone claiming to be my attorney had called with questions about Ben's safety and whether I was emotionally stable enough to have custody. "Did this person give a name?" "He said he was representing Mrs. Mercer in a custody dispute." "Mrs. Mercer doesn't have an attorney yet." "That's what we thought, which is why we called you." Bradley was escalating. First my business, now my son. That evening, I called Harold Finch. "He's crossed the line," I told him. "Going after Ben." "We still need proof, Chris." "Then let's get it." "What do you have in mind?" "I'm going to give him exactly what he wants." "Which is?" "A war." Thursday night, I put my plan into motion. I called Bradley's house from a blocked number, knowing he wouldn't answer. When his voicemail picked up, I left a message. "This is Chris Mercer. You want to play games? Let's play. But remember, I'm in the security business. I know where you live, I know where you work, and I know exactly how to make your life miserable. Back off, or find out what happens when you mess with someone who has nothing left to lose." It was a calculated risk. The message was threatening enough to get his attention, but not specific enough to constitute a real threat. Just enough to make him angry. Angry people make mistakes. Friday morning, Bradley made his biggest mistake yet. He showed up at my office. I was reviewing installation schedules when I heard the front door chime. I looked up to see Bradley Kane walking into my showroom like he owned the place. He was everything I wasn't: tall, handsome, expensively dressed, the kind of man who'd never had to work with his hands or worry about making payroll, the kind of man who thought he could take whatever he wanted. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't." "Yes, we do. This harassment has to stop." "What harassment?" "The phone calls, the threats, the sabotage. I don't know what you're talking about. He walked closer to my desk, trying to intimidate me with his height and his expensive suit. I know it was you who messed with my electrical system. Prove it. I don't have to prove anything. I just have to make one phone call and you'll lose your business license. For what? Harassment, stalking, criminal mischief. Good luck with that. You think this is funny? I think you're a man who's used to getting his way, and you don't know how to handle it when someone fights back. I'm not fighting with you, Mercer. I'm destroying you. How's that working out so far? His face flushed red. You have no idea who you're messing with. Sure I do. I'm messing with a guy who steals other men's wives and then gets upset when there are consequences. Natalie came to me. I didn't steal anything. Right. You're just an innocent bystander. She was unhappy, Mercer. She needed someone who could give her what she deserved. What she deserved? A real man. Someone who could provide for her properly. You mean someone with more money? Money matters. Security matters. She was tired of living paycheck to paycheck with a glorified handyman. That hit home, and he knew it. Bradley Kane had just summed up every insecurity I'd ever had about my marriage, every doubt about whether I was good enough for Natalie. But instead of getting angry, I smiled. You're right, I said. Money does matter. Security matters. That's why I'm curious about something. What? How are your clients going to feel when they find out their real estate agent can't even secure his own house? His confident expression faltered. What are you talking about? Electrical problems, security malfunctions. Word gets around fast in this business. People start to wonder if you're competent enough to help them find safe properties. You son of a... Careful. Wouldn't want to say something you'd regret. He leaned across my desk, his face inches from mine. This isn't over. You're right. It's not. He turned and walked toward the door, but I stopped him with one more comment. Bradley? He turned around. Give Natalie my regards. After he left, I sat in my office and realized that the war had officially begun. Bradley Kane thought he could destroy me with phone calls and rumors and intimidation. He was about to learn that I fought with different weapons, and I was very, very good at what I did. The end came on a rainy Thursday night in October, exactly 6 weeks after Natalie's girls' trip had blown up our marriage. I was at home with Ben, helping him with homework, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Natalie's number. Chris, I need help. Her voice was shaky, desperate, not the confident tone she'd used during our confrontations over the past month. What kind of help? It's Bradley. He's not the person I thought he was. Really? What gave it away? Please don't be sarcastic, not now. What happened, Natalie? He's been lying to me about everything, his business, his finances, his divorce. His divorce? He told me he was divorced. He's not. He's separated, and his wife is taking him for everything he's got. I almost laughed. Almost. And you're just finding this out now? There's more. His real estate business is in trouble. He's been using client money to cover personal expenses. The state licensing board is investigating him. How do you know all this? His wife called me. She found my number in his phone and wanted to let me know exactly what kind of man I was involved with. And what kind of man is that? The kind who lies about everything. The kind who uses people and throws them away when he's done with them. I looked over at Ben, who was working on math problems at the kitchen table, oblivious to the conversation that was about to change his life again. Where are you calling from? A hotel. He threw me out. He threw you out? We had a fight about his wife, about the lies, about everything. He said I was becoming a liability, that he couldn't afford to be associated with someone whose ex-husband was trying to destroy his reputation. Your ex-husband? That's what he called you. Said you were a vindictive loser who couldn't accept that his wife had found someone better. Sounds like Bradley. Chris, I made a terrible mistake. Yes, you did. I want to come home. And there it was, the moment I'd been both expecting and dreading for 6 weeks. You can't come home, Natalie. Why not? Because this isn't your home anymore. I'm still your wife. No, you're not. The divorce papers were finalized yesterday. Silence on the other end of the line. What? You didn't contest them. You didn't respond to any of Harold's calls or letters. The court granted the divorce by default. I was dealing with other things. You were dealing with Bradley, and now that he's thrown you out, you want to come back to the life you threw away. It doesn't have to be like this, Chris. We can start over. No, we can't. What about Ben? I looked at my son again. He'd stopped working on his math and was listening to my side of the conversation. What about him? He needs his mother. He needs a mother he can count on, someone who puts his needs first. I can be that person. You had 12 years to be that person. You chose Bradley Kane instead. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every day for 4 months you chose him over us. Now you have to live with that choice. Chris, please. I have nowhere to go. Call Melissa. Call your sister. Call someone who hasn't spent the last 6 weeks cleaning up the mess you made. I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of security. You love having someone to fall back on when your other options don't work out. But you don't love me. That's not true. If it's not true, then prove it. How? Stay away. Let Ben and me build a life without you. If you really love us, let us go. She was crying now, the kind of desperate sobbing that might have moved me 6 weeks ago. I can't. Then you don't love us. You love what we represent, safety, security, a backup plan. What am I supposed to do? Figure it out. You're a grown woman who made adult choices. Deal with the consequences like an adult. I hung up and turned off my phone. Ben was staring at me from the kitchen table. Was that Mom? Yeah, buddy. Is she coming home? No. Ever? I thought about that question for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe someday when she's figured out how to be the kind of person you deserve to have as a mother. What if she never figures it out? Then we'll be fine without her. Ben nodded and went back to his homework. Resilient kid. Smarter than his parents, apparently. The next morning brought news that Bradley Kane's real estate license had been suspended pending investigation of his business practices. By afternoon, word was spreading that his wife had filed for divorce and was seeking half of everything he owned. By evening, I heard from Earl Gentry that Bradley had put his house up for sale and was planning to leave town. Guess he decided he didn't like the local business climate, Earl said. Guess not. You hear anything from Natalie? She called last night. Wanted to come home. What did you tell her? I told her the truth. Home is where people love you enough to stay faithful to you. Harsh. Fair. That weekend, Ben and I painted his bedroom. He'd asked for blue walls and glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. We spent Saturday afternoon at the hardware store picking out paint and Sunday morning applying it. Dad? Yeah? Are you sad about Mom? I thought about that while I rolled paint onto the wall. I'm sad about what happened. I'm sad that she made choices that hurt our family. But are you sad that she's gone? No, buddy. I'm not sad that she's gone. Me neither. We worked in comfortable silence for a while, father and son rebuilding their world, one wall at a time. Monday brought a call from Harold Finch. It's over, he said. Kane left town this morning. Drove out with everything he could fit in his BMW. What about his house? Banks foreclosing. Turns out he was behind on the mortgage. And Natalie? No idea. Haven't heard from her since Thursday. Good. Chris? Yeah? You did the right thing. Might not feel like it now, but you did. I know. You and Ben going to be all right? I looked around my house, our house, with its new locks and fresh paint and the absence of lies. Yeah, Harold, we're going to be just fine. That evening, as Ben and I sat on the couch watching a movie, I realized something important. For the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't wondering what Natalie was really thinking, or who she was really texting, or whether she was telling me the truth. I was just a father watching a movie with his son in a house where trust wasn't a luxury item. The security system I'd installed wasn't just about locks and alarms and cameras. It was about knowing that the people inside were people you could count on. Ben fell asleep during the movie, his head against my shoulder. I carried him upstairs to his newly painted room and tucked him into bed under his glow-in-the-dark stars. Night, Dad. Night, buddy. Tomorrow, can we work on the garage? Absolutely. I turned off his light and stood in the doorway for a moment, watching him sleep in his safe room in our secure house. Trust, it turns out, isn't something you give to other people. It's something you build for yourself, one lock at a time.